On Wednesday, I told Matoyan I was going to the DMV and wouldn't be back. I was going to the DMV to get my registration renewed, but what I was really doing was meeting with producer Doug Wick to see about running his company. Doug Wick seemed nice, though he was sort of a ponderous abstract moron. He kept talking about the myth of a movie. I think he meant theme, and about how development was like a game moving pieces on the board. He talked about how he doesn't want to reinvent genres, but rather rehash old genres in new forms. For example, a ghost story, but on the moon. He asked me if, when I dreamed, did I dream in fiction? Matoyan told me he weighs 217 and that he should weigh 185, but that he'd like to get down to 210. Why he's stopping at 210 is beyond me. I told him I used to be fat, and he told me I have the build of a former fat person. What does that mean? He then asked me if this Ashley Judd Mira Sorvino movie I'd made years ago was a hit. I knew what he meant. I knew he meant ratings, but pretended not to. Oh, the whole thing came up because he said he hated Mira Sorvino, that she's a pig. I told him about the movie my friend had made with her, where the PAs were told to look at her feet when they talked to her, never in the eyes, and said that I thought she'd single-handedly ruined the movie I'd done with her. I told him there was a lot of nudity in the film and that, while you didn't have to ask Ashley Judd twice to drop trow, and that in fact on the first day of shooting in this church, she called the entire crew over, stripped buck naked, and told them to get a good look now so they wouldn't have to stare when she was shooting. Mira took a lot of coaxing, read booze, just to show her tits at the end. Matoyan asked me again what the ratings were. I said I had no idea, and that he confused me sometimes because he seemed so concerned with ratings, and that that's not what our division was really generally concerned with. He said he knew, but he really doesn't. He judges himself in terms of ratings. He kept justifying the low rating on In the Gloaming. He knew it wasn't designed to be a ratings movie, but was upset nonetheless about the rating. Friday revealed exactly what kind of boss Matoyan is. A horrible one. He became obsessed with Chris Cooper's makeup and dailies. Granted, the makeup wasn't so great, but he was out of control about it. I spent 5 hours on the phone with Gary, Guy, Jay, Larry, on and on about the skin tone of the prosthetics, the stippling. I couldn't really disagree with Matoyan, but he made such a huge deal of it and got so involved that it was bizarre. He should have just had me deal with it. Instead, he spent all day obsessing over it. Doesn't he have a job? New joke. What do you call a studio president who doesn't know how to run a studio? A makeup artist. Pam said she forgot she'd made plans with me, but that she couldn't do them anyway because she's so stressed from work. I really resent her conception that I'll never work as hard as she does because it means she's always ahead of me stress-wise. I'm the one who has to eat it because she's the one who's more stressed out. I feel like she's taken my time for granted again, made promises she can't keep, etc. And it's weird. She's known me for so long. How can she not know that I believe her when she says things, even if she's only half listening herself? I hate feeling so dependent on Pam, but I'm such an essentially lazy person. I mean, I've found the perfect friend, so why look elsewhere? Matoyan keeps calling every 10 minutes, ostensibly to find out whether or not we've cast the brand of stewardess yet, but really just to chat, I think. He tells me he knows that I don't like him very much. I tell him I like him sometimes. He tells me he likes me more than I like him. I tell him I would characterize our relationship another way and ask him what the word was for that thing the British did to the Americans that started the War of 1812, where they got Americans drunk, put them on ships, and forced them to fight in their navy. Impressment. On Saturday, Stockwell called, and I ended up having to talk to him for like 2 hours because he was so freaked out about Larry's choice for the brand of stewardess. He kept questioning Larry's trashy taste in women. He said that Larry was a woman hater, maybe gay, and that this movie walked a fine line, and that by making all the women in it bimbos, we were mocking them. I couldn't believe I was having to have this discussion. I finally calmed him down. I told him that he wasn't the director, that Larry had the overall picture in his head. It doesn't matter what I said. It was an exhausting conversation. I'd invited Larry to a barbecue that night, which was sort of boring. There was only me, Baby, Kyle, Rufus Wainwright. Larry showed up at around 10. If I'd have been in his shoes, I'd have been horrified. 4 people at a dead party, one of them playing a guitar. I met with Rebecca De Mornay today. She wants to do an all-female remake of Jesus Christ Superstar, with Whitney Houston as Jesus and Annie Lennox as Judas. I went to the set on Wednesday because of this ridiculous problem Matoyan is having with Schwimmer's performance. This after Matoyan went to see Schwimmer that morning to talk to Schwimmer about his performance, as if that doesn't violate every tenet of the director-actor relationship. He told Ellen that Schwimmer's performance was too dopey, monotone, and low energy, and that he didn't understand why Larry couldn't make it better. Matoyan said that he could take direction, that if someone told him to say something faster, he'd say it faster, which he then demonstrated for Ellen by saying, "Say it faster, faster." Matoyan told Ellen to tell Larry to tell Schwimmer to say his lines faster and louder. I'm 14 and at the dinner table, and my father asks what sea lies between Italy and Greece. The Adriatic, I reply. You sure about that? Yeah, I say, having learned this in geography class a few years earlier. Why don't you go look that up then? As I head into the family room for an encyclopedia, I get this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. It's the Adriatic, right? Where's the Aegean again? I close the encyclopedia and head back into the kitchen. So which is it? It's the Ionian. Well, Adriatic over here isn't so smart after all, are you, Adriatic? For the next 2 years, until I leave my childhood home and go away to boarding school, my father refers to me as Adriatic. Hey, Adriatic, go help your mother bring in the groceries. Isn't it time for Adriatic over here to go to bed? Quit that horrible screeching sound at the piano, Adriatic.
What